Speaking about the inventory, so having a lack of inventory, we have Scott Eckley with DR Horton with us today. The lack of inventory is obviously something in the real estate, in the realtor community. Our goal now is, if you don't have a lot of resale inventory, it's, hey, look, we really need to push to look at builders. Not that you shouldn't look at them first.
You should always look for them.
Yeah, you should look first, and we've talked about that so many times, but it becomes even more prevalent when, there's inventory that a buyer doesn't see on certain websites, and they come to us, and we got to make sure that it's out there. Obviously, you guys have inventory in a lot of communities right now.
Yeah, we have in the Tampa area. We're Tampa, Sarasota. That's the division we have responsibility for. But in the greater Tampa area, we have almost 20 communities, and our goal in every community that anytime you walk in, we're going to have anywhere from 5 to 7 move-in ready homes. And they're always our top 2 or 3 floor plans. We use different colors, so we want to make sure that when the person walks in, they can find something they like, and they can move in the next 30 to 60 days, whatever kind of suits their needs.
With houses moving that fast, how do you keep 5 to 7 up all the time?
It's tricky sometimes. It really is. It really is tricky. We've had a couple communities. This is going to be a record year for us.
Yeah.
We're going to sell over 1,000 homes, which
That's awesome.
Yeah.
we've never done that before. And it's just, for all those people that have purchased DR Horton and Express Homes, thank you so very much. We greatly appreciate your business. But it's been a record year for us. But it gets a little tricky, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but sometimes, the municipalities and getting the permits,
Right.
they're getting backed up, and so that process become a little bit more delayed. So it's a little trickier, but we're making it happen.
Yeah.
Well, a couple other things important to note about the statistics. Cash sales of Tampa Bay homes declining. Finally, people that have the cash to buy are starting to say, okay,
A little
I can go
bit.
through. It declined a little bit, but people are saying, okay, I can go through the process of buying a home and get a mortgage instead of using cash. And secondly, another statistic that is kind of surprising for people, but foreclosure activity up 20% year over year. A lot that has some people on the inside a little concerned that is there something behind that? Is there another wave of people having financial difficulty? And I don't think it is. I think it's just the court systems were backed up and the banks drug their feet. But unfortunately, sometimes the news media puts stuff out where they don't really understand the whole spectrum of real estate, so it puts the wrong fear.
Yeah, we'll see what the stats are next month. I think that was just a 1-month blip, but
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So Richard, speaking of all this change and lots of great statistical things happening in our real estate market, what does some of this bring upon the homeowners insurance agencies? So if you're in a hot market, if homes are selling fast, if prices are rising, how does that change the advice you guys give to people when they're looking at getting homeowners insurance?
Well, to be honest with you, in the insurance market, things stay fairly steady, and they don't rise and fall with the markets as much as people think. And it kind of changes the way we approach it in dealing with our customers, because there's times a few years back when people were saying, hey, you're only wanting to insure this house for $150,000, but we're paying $250,000 for it. And we have to explain that, it's a 1,500 square foot house, and we're just insuring the building, we're not insuring land, and we're also insuring it for how much it costs to rebuild it should it burn down to the ground and it needs to be completely rebuilt. We're not taking into account market value. If it sits on Clearwater Beach, that same house could be an $850,000 house. It doesn't mean we're going to insure it for $850,000, but it means we're still going to insure it for that same $150,000 because that's all it's going to take to rebuild it. And you go 180 degrees in the other direction, and there are times when we are explaining to people that, well, we understand that you're only buying the house for $100,000, but we still have to insure it for $150,000 because that's what it's going to take to rebuild it. And that was the case very recently, probably for the last couple of years. We were explaining that to customers that we need to insure it for more than what you're paying for it, because there was a lot of foreclosures out there, because it was a buyer's market and people were selling their houses very inexpensively. So they were kind of looking at us funny, thinking that we were trying to overinsure houses, when in fact it still costs the same amount to rebuild it, whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. The market's starting to flip back to the seller's market now, so our explanation again is going back to what it was a few years ago.
One thing that I would expect probably impacts you guys sometimes, and especially with the bidding war type scenarios in the hot market, is that buyers have to make quicker decisions, or they have to move more quickly to get a quote because they
Right.
need to know the numbers because they're making an offer. And does that I assume there's probably people that are more tense in that environment because they whereas before, when the market had 6 or 7 months inventory and it wasn't as hot, you could have somebody, it could take a day or two to get a quote. Now there's pressure. They need to know an answer. There's 7 offers on the house. Does that change things for you guys in terms of expedience?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, especially being down here in Florida, where in the homeowners insurance market, it's not like it is up north. You move to a new place up north, you call the local, whoever agent that you've dealt with since you were 18 years old, and whether it's, any of the big ones, the State Farms, the Allstates, the Liberty Mutuals, companies like that. And they provide you a quote, which is the same people that your parents have for insurance, and you just go ahead and go with it because you know that's a good quote. Whereas in Florida, you don't have those companies writing insurance. It's localized Florida insurance companies, some very large, very well funded, others not so much. Some of the names that come up in the Florida insurance market aren't familiar to all the people relocating down here from up north. So it's kind of a little nerve-wracking for them dealing with companies that they're not as familiar with because they're brand new to Florida.
So, one of the things I want to roll to next, and I can't talk about it for much before the break, but Susan Taylor Martin at the Times wrote an article about the proposed 75-story tower that would vault Tampa into top-tier skyscraper cities. This is basically the Port Tampa's now development. Personally, I think everybody I meet's a channel-side downtown developer now. I mean, how many downtown Tampa developments do we need before there's even a Publix down there, And so I talked about it with her, and I've got some concerns about that. I'm going to talk about them after the break because I want to go into a little bit more detail of, how many great things we have going on downtown Tampa, about how so many great things could also lead to some bad things if people get greedy and there's too many, oversupply, overbuild, and all those things are starting to be concerns because I think every time I open up the Tampa Bay Business Journal, there's a new apartment complex or new condo complex being built, and I don't know where the heck they're going to get the buyers from. So, we'll talk about that after a quick break and keep talking about the local real estate market here on the Duncan Real Estate Show.